The Rockets just signed Jalen Green and Alperen Şengün to the rookie extension. So stay tuned for this episode of the Bradeaux and Will Show. Will and I are going to discuss that right now.
All right, and welcome back to the episode of the Bradeaux and Will Show. Y'all heard Brad in the intro. This is a very, very special edition of the show. Probably, I don't know, Brad, what you said. This is probably the happiest I've been. Sheesh, man. I mean, I'm trying to think of a better day than this one.
It's up there, man. It's got to be top three.
It's up there with Udoka getting hired in the 2023 draft for me. But you heard Brad in the intro. Jalen Green and Alperen Şengün just got extended. Jalen Green got extended to a $106 million 3-year deal, and then Alperen Şengün to a $185 million 5-year deal, right? So we're going to break down both of those guys' contracts right now, what that means for those guys individually, what that means for the team, short-term, long-term, all of the above, just kind of breaking everything to kind of jump into that. But to start that off, Jalen Green was the one that came in first. Shams went on ESPN maybe around like 2 or 3 o'clock Houston time. It was like a Jalen Green extension. He kind of hinted that it was probably pretty close to happening, and that if it did happen, it was like a really unique contract, which was a shock to I think a lot of us that even that this was even in the works. I know a lot of people were kind of thinking that neither him or Sengun were going to get extended before the season, and then it took place. So Brad, just kind of initially, what was your reaction when that notification came through that we extended Jalen Green?
Man, look, I was on the clock, Will. I was on the clock. The notification came through. I had to stop everything I was doing. My initial thought was a 2+1 deal was very interesting. They got him for 35.3 average annual value, which is around 10 million less than the max. So guys like Scotty Barnes and Franz Wagner and Evan Mobley are getting like 5 years, 225. And so Jalen is taking a team-friendly contract. I mean, people who don't like Jalen Green like that, they're going to say they gave him $35 million. Like, well, that's an overpay. In reality, that's not an overpay. Jalen Green did not have to take this contract. He could have bet on himself and waited for a better deal. But no, this is a deal that Jalen Green took. And where it gets interesting is it's a player contract. So Jalen Green can still opt out after 2 seasons and sign a contract, let's say a max, and make more money in this 5-year span than he would have if he just took the 5-year 225, hypothetically. So he's betting on himself after these 2 years. If he performs the way he's supposed to, he can opt out and then get a max contract again. And he's going to be making more money than he would have if he just took the rookie max. So I like the deal. It was great negotiations on both sides. And it's great to see Jalen Green locked up. It's obviously way better that they got the big man locked up too, but Will and I are going to mention that next. What were your thoughts, Will?
I mean, yeah. I love the trade. When I saw the notification come through on my phone today. Like I said, it kind of came out of nowhere. I would not have Jalen Green getting extended on my bingo card this season before the summer. I did not have that coming. So honestly, threw me for a loop. I honestly don't think that Jalen Green did enough last season or in his first 3 seasons in the NBA to warrant a max contract extension this summer, which I understand he hadn't earned that. But I think that there are advantages to giving a player a contract they're not necessarily worth in the moment. But it's a contract that if they become the player that you think they can become, it looks like a steal of a deal. And that's what this is. It's Jalen obviously at this moment in time is not, I think he's getting paid, what is it,
35.3.
Yeah, about an annual $35.3 million a year.
Yeah.
He's obviously not worth that today, but it's the type of deal where if Jalen Green breaks out and becomes the player that we believe he can be, draft number 2 overall, he showed flashes of it last season. He looked amazing through preseason. If that's the player that we're getting for a full consistent season this season, he's obviously worth more than what we just paid him. So it in turn becomes a steal of a contract. And then we're gonna talk about with Sengun, that's how you build great teams, is by getting great players on great deals. And that's what this is if Jalen Green breaks out. And so from Jalen's side, I also think it's really good for him as well, because I think he knows that through the first 3 years of his career, he has not played to the level that you would want to play to warrant a max contract. But being able to just get a contract done with it. I mean, it's still a lot of money, right? It's still a decent amount of money. So he's gonna be able to take care of his family, feed. He got an extra amount to feed now, so he can take care of those guys. But then also the important part for him is the player option, right? So if Jaylen Green breaks out this year, which we, fingers crossed, knock on wood, he does, he just opts out in 2 years and gets paid even more money than he would have got paid had he, got paid this summer, right? Conversely, if he doesn't break out, which once again, fingers crossed, knock on wood, that he does not. If he doesn't break out, I mean, you got paid. He's obviously going to opt in at that point in time. He gets paid, and you know what I'm saying, he can still take care of his family. That's something that he can still, even though initially didn't have your NBA career play out the way that you thought it would, you still got a lot of money to take care of your family with. So I think from him, it's a huge win. From the Rockets, I think it's a win. I know people are talking about, well, Jalen overpaid. He's not worth it. It's a bad deal for the Rockets. And like one thing that I do kind of want to stress is that he's getting paid, I believe, 20% of the cap right now. That's what it is. And that 20% is going to look even less in 2 years when he's in that last year of his deal. So like the salary cap is jumping. So $35 million today is not going to be $35 million in 2 years. So, that's one. But two, if to me, the worst case scenario is Jalen Green. Once again, don't want to happen, but Jalen Green doesn't break out and you gave him this contract. So that means you are locked into paying essentially a bad player $106 million for 3 seasons. What I think happens, and this is something we've been talking about all offseason, is if Jalen Green struggles this year and does not break out, he's gonna get traded, right? It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of of when he gets traded if he does not break out. And idealistically, you will be trading him, maybe another young player, and a conglomerate of draft picks in exchange for a superstar. One of the reasons why the Rockets made that deal with the Nets this summer in exchange for those Phoenix Suns picks is to add the amount of draft capital they have at their disposal to trade. We increased the quantity of that. And then we all, it's the world's worst kept secret that the Rockets are definitely coveting one of Devin Booker or Kevin Durant. And so, like, let's say, once again, Jalen Green does not break out, you were going to be looking to trade Jalen Green, probably, another player and those picks for one of Devin Booker or Kevin Durant, or you somebody in that ballpark. I think that that the extension we made today does not change those plans at all. I think the only way I look at it now is like, instead of Jalen Green just being thrown in necessarily as a young player, he's also thrown in as like a salary filler. He's a salary filler guy because, like I said, this contract isn't super duper like unmovable. It's not the end of the world. It's only a 3-year deal, right? Worst case scenario is 3 years. So that's like not the end of the world. And this is the same NBA where we saw Ben Simmons plus picks he traded for James Harden. So like when people say, oh, it's untradeable, there is no such thing as an untradeable contract in the NBA these days, right? Especially if you attach draft picks to it, which is what the idea would be to trade 4, maybe even 5 draft picks along with another young player with Jalen Green to another team. That'll get moved, and like he'll be 23, I believe, this summer. And so like I could see, one, like if you're in circles, you hear NBA GMs are a lot higher on Jalen Green than NBA Twitter is. But he'll also be 23. So like I could see an NBA team convincing themselves that, hey, 23-year-old Jalen Green plus draft picks, like I'll take a swing on that. And if he doesn't work out, like worst case scenario, I'm probably gonna be tanking anyway. So worst case scenario, I have to eat $35 million a year for the next 2 seasons. Like that's definitely not the end of the world for either team involved. So I think the risk to reward, I think there's like very low risk here. And I think the reward is that like obviously you get a really good player locked up for cheap for the next 2 seasons. Jalen Green take care of his family. I think both sides be very happy with this deal.
I couldn't agree more. Again, Jalen Green, a guy who really only had last season, would you say maybe 2 really good months of basketball? So
yeah, it was November and March.
Right. So again, really good months of basketball, but the Rockets, I'm sure this offseason have seen a lot from Jalen Green, and preseason is preseason. It really doesn't mean anything. But I love the way he came out in preseason, and I'm sure they have confidence in him. And Will mentioned it perfectly. If it doesn't work out, that is a very tradable contract, and Houston still has a ton of assets all the way up until 2031 or 2029 from the trade they just made with the Nets and having the Suns assets as well. So good deal. I like it. It could go either way. If it works out for Jalen, great. If not, again, there's an avenue out of it. So
I want to add one more thing before we go to Sengun. I forgot to mention 2 things. One, The reason why the Rockets, another reason why the Rockets were willing to give Jaylen this contract, despite the fact that he has underperformed, is the contract that we gave him is actually beneath his cap hold. His cap hold was, I want to say, around $38 million.
It was
and we gave him about 35. So it's actually cheaper. So
Yeah.
like as funny as it sounds with the way the NBA and cap holds work, we actually save money next summer by doing this. Now, obviously, a lot of that was negated by what happened with Sengun next. But the point is like another benefit is I believe we saved around $5.2 million on Sengun's. I'm sorry, on Sengun's, on Jalen's deal by extending him right now with under his cap hold, as opposed to if we took him into free agency next summer. So that's another way to win for the Rockets. And then another way to win for the Rockets, somebody else has been pointing out, is that if Jaylen opts out, he'd only be eligible for the 6-year vet, which is 25% of the cap, not 30% of the cap. So his extension, if he opts out in 2 years, is actually going to be cheaper than what it would have been had he got extended normally. So like, once again, just another way that I think it's a win for the Rockets. I know people on the TO were like really mad at it, and so I don't know, man. Like, so I think that if the worst case scenario of this deal is an outcome that was going to happen, regardless of if he got extended, to me that's not a worst case scenario, because like I said, if he didn't get extended, he was going to get traded if he underperformed the season in a pick package for a star. That's going to happen this summer anyways. If he, what I'm saying, with the extension, even if he underperforms. So, like I said, the risk to reward ratio, I think it's great. I don't see there being as much downside as Twitter's making it out to be.
Yeah, no, it's just the narrative that Jalen Green has, his connotation, how people just view him. Yeah, this is a good deal by every single way you want to look at it. And after this season, it should show. So that's what I think about that. Willow, you want to move on to number 28?
Yeah, Sengun. Let me pull up his numbers again. It was 185, I believe.
Yeah, he got
185 for 5 years. That's what, 37 a year annually, almost.
Exactly 37.
Somewhere that 37 a year. And that was the big one that like no one saw coming. Like a Jaylen Green extension, especially under the cap hold, made sense because he was the number 2 overall pick. His cap hold was where it was. Like getting a number under there, I could see that happening. I did not think that Sengun was going to get extended. And I'm going to make it clear, it wasn't because of lack of ability or like I didn't think he was worth it. I just didn't think Sengun was going to take less than a max, because I thought he was clearly worth a max contract. And from the Rockets' perspective, we've been talking about it all offseason, right? Like preserving Sengun's cap hold is more advantageous because you do it'll allow you to have more cap space to work with next summer. Mm-hmm. That being said, and because I didn't even think it was a reality, I want to say that like off the rip, so I'm cool sacrificing the cap space next summer to get someone who I believe is the best player in his draft class. He's 22 years old, 21, 22 years old.
He's 22.
Balled out of his mind so far. He looks like he's going to be the next best young big in the league. Getting a guy like that on a team-friendly deal long-term, I will sacrifice cap space next summer for that. And so for me, like, this is the best deal of the day. The greatest news I've heard in a very long time. Like I said, this is what the cherry on top for a great day. But Brad, like, so what was your thoughts on the Sengun deal kind of coming through?
Yeah, I was ecstatic. Overall, it's 39 million less than guys like Mobley was getting. Like
Franz, Scotty, he's getting paid. Yeah, and like I said, in my opinion, I think he's better than all those guys.
I mean, you can look at it. I mean, if you want to talk about Mobley or Scotty, I hear you. I'm not gonna argue it. But I believe, as Will says, Sengun is right up in that exact tier. There's no way he's not as valuable as those guys, even if you don't think he's better than those guys. He's definitely worth not 40 million less than that. So a huge steal that the Rockets just pulled off. So you have to be happy with Rafael Stone for what he did. And I want to shout out, I don't think I mentioned this, I want to shout out Jalen Green and Sengun for both taking, less money than what they were expected. Because Will and I have talked about this. We didn't think Jalen was probably taking less than the max. We definitely didn't think Sengun was taking less than the max. So it says a lot about them as well to take the money they did and to bet on themselves, one, and two, set the precedent for the rest of this team. If you want to keep a young core like this together, and Rafael Stone mentioned it. I forget which press conference he did, or maybe it was on the radio. He said, I feel like I can keep this young core together, and this is the way you do that. You sign your top guys to team-friendly deals, save a bunch of money, and the rest of your guys will now fall in line. So that's how I felt with both of these deals, and especially Sengun's, because he took a lot less money than he was worth. I mean, Luka's the only other player to average 21.95 at his age. So I mean, it says a lot. And it was a 4+1 deal. I believe Trae Young and Luka were the only other players off a rookie extension, or to get that off a rookie extension with Sengun now. So yeah, it was a great deal. Rafael Stone pulled that off. I don't know how he did, but again, this is just great for the Rockets going forward. So yeah, Jabari and Tari are next. So we'll see what they end up doing when that time comes. But yeah, I mean, I was ecstatic.
Yeah, I'll say that, like, one, I definitely want to make sure that when we go to Toyota Center this year, that we loudly cheer when he's introduced, when Shenkun's introduced before the game.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime he makes a big play, like, we got to let him know that we appreciate him, because he took a lot less money than what he was supposed to get.
Yes,
a lot less money than what he's like. I think he's a max contract worthy player. I think he's the best player in his class. To walk away with less money than what he will walk away with money that he did walk away with. Like, I think that one, obviously I think he did it to secure his own future, but I think some of that was the Houston love, right? And understanding that, like, he wants to stay here, he wants to build something with the Rockets, build something special. And like I said with Jaylen, like, getting good players on steel contracts is how you build great teams, because now you have more flexibility to address other holes on the roster, as opposed to being, like, capped out because you're paying 4 guys max contracts. That's kind of the problem that the Warriors ran into after their ring, is they have 4, not even 5. It was Clay, Steph, Draymond, Wiggins, and Jordan. It was 5 guys getting, like, max money, and then you look at that, and then the bench, it's nobody on the bench because you can't pay nobody no more.
Yeah.
So, like, getting guys on deals like this, like, that's how you build and maintain great teams. And so, like, kudos to Sengun for accepting that contract. And I want to talk about Stone next. Like, I think we talked about, I come off as like a Stone defender more times than not, but it's like, I genuinely believe that this dude has been, like, he's done an amazing job since taking over as general manager of the Houston Rockets from Daryl Morey back in 2020. One of these days we got to go through and just, like, recount, like, everything he's done for, like, an episode, and then, like, break down why it was such a great deal. But you look at the team that Stone inherited in 2020 to go for Daryl Morey, right? That was following the season where we traded away Chris Paul and every draft pick that we own for Russell Westbrook. James Harden says, "Get me out of Houston. I don't want to be here anymore." And, like, let's be honest, the team was, like, coming off a really bad L against the Lakers in the playoffs. It wasn't looking too good. Like, it was very much a grim situation. There was probably, like, for sure, a more, like, as a general manager, you got to pick where you want to go. I'd imagine Houston wouldn't be at the top of that destination list for you. He came in and, like, took a team that had no draft picks, no young talent, kind of no direction. And he gave us, supplied a bunch of draft picks, obviously, supplied a bunch of young talent. He's drafted really, really well. He's extended really well. I had a really good laugh on Twitter today, because if you look at every extension that Stone has given out, none of them have been normal extensions. Like, every single one of them has come with a caveat to them. Obviously we don't condone Kevin Porter Jr.'s actions, but, like, the contract that KPJ got when he was still here, right? Like, the NBA banned that contract the very next summer because they was like, you can't do that no more. Like, it's just funny to me that, like, he's found different ways to, like, I don't know, like, for lack of a better term, he just finds a way to cook. Like, that's just the best way I can put it. Just in free agency, he brought in Fred VanVleet, someone who I didn't see the vision with at first when we were talking about signing him, and he's obviously been. I think Fred has been better than anyone could have predicted outside of Stone himself, and I guess Ime. And then he obviously brought in Ime Udoka, who we know what he's done for this organization, for this team. And, like, the beautiful thing that I keep stressing about the Rockets' future is there's just so many different ways for this team to build a contender. Whether it's through the young talent, the draft picks we have. The catch space isn't quite the same as it used to be, but even with that, like, there's just so many different ways this team can be competitive. And you look at other teams who have been trying to rebuild or have, just been in the NBA landscape. There are so many teams out there, like Chicago Bulls, Washington Wizards, Detroit Pistons, the Sacramento Kings up until, like, 2 years ago. Like, there have been so many teams out there that have gone 5, 6, 7, 8 years trying to rebuild, trying to get back into the playoffs. And the Rockets have done it in like 3 to 4 years. Obviously, we haven't made the playoffs just yet, but I feel very confident this is the playoff team we're going to watch this year. And like to say that we did it on the first try, right? Because that's another thing too. Like this isn't like there are a lot of teams out there that have to like rebuild the rebuild. We did it in one try. We did it in 3 to 4 years, which is also like about as quick as you can possibly do it. And to do it as successfully as we have, like that's not normal. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of teams out there that, like I said, that have been bad since I've been alive, that have been trying to get to where we are right now. We did it in 3 or 4 seasons. And so, yeah, I want to make sure he gets his flowers for being able to do what he's been doing for this team. And like Brad touched on, I think if this extension does kind of set the precedent moving forward, I think that the rest of the guys got to understand, like, hey, like the best player on this team took a team-friendly deal. You know what I'm saying? And because he wants to build with this team. So hopefully that kind of sends the message down. We know Stone was going to negotiations trying to get them team-friendly deals done. And if you're a Rockets fan, like that's what you want to hear. That's how, like I said, that's how you build great teams. It's how you lock up all these guys that we have on this young core is by having deals like this done. So yeah, I'll end my plane there by saying I love what Stone's done so far, and I want to kind of I guess toot my horn that I have been on the Stone is a good GM train for like the entire time. So it's really good to kind of see him finally get his flowers.
Yeah, to piggyback on what Will was saying, I think Stone has done an amazing job since he's come into Houston. And I won't even reiterate what Will said because you put it perfectly. And I just want to pretty much touch on not only that, but we were also talking about, Şengün, how, he took less money than he definitely should have. I was going to mention this earlier, but yeah, no, he actually just signed the richest contract in Turkish athlete history, the contract that he just signed. So it's probably another thing with Sengun is like, hey, I'm getting all this money. It's cool. And now I'm the biggest paid athlete in the history of my country. So, I mean, that's another thing. And as Will mentioned, most importantly, I'm just looking forward to this Rockets team. And now they have the president set the 2 top guys who technically took those team-friendly deals. And now going forward, like I said earlier, we have Tari coming up and Jabari coming up. And those are guys who are going to come up next. But most importantly, I look at Oklahoma City. That's a team that has a lot of young guys, and they have signed a lot of those guys to team-friendly deals. I look at guys like Aaron Wiggins and Isaiah Joe. They'd signed some really good contracts. Those were solid role players for that team. 3 years, $42 million, I believe. I'm not saying Jabari or Tari are going to sign something along those lines, but those are the kind of deals that accelerate, the team's future, and it's going to help them win long term. So I'm looking forward to what the Rockets do next.
The best part too about this is we can finally dead the narrative that the Rockets don't value Sengun, that they want to trade him, that he's not a part of our future plans. Like that narrative, that's a narrative from the summer that was like making me want to pull my hair out. It's finally we can finally dead that one. We can move past that entirely. The next narrative that we got to dead is that Sengun and Jaylen can't play with each other. Like that's the next dumb narrative that like I don't get how you watch the games and walk away with that conclusion. And I think, hopefully this is finally the year where we see that narrative kind of get put to bed for good too. And once that happens, it's just like what's next? Like what are they gonna come up with next to say about this team that we can or cannot do?
Right.
So yeah, that's all I have to say about the extensions. I think I want to kind of talk about the Hornets, but the Hornets game on Wednesday. But I'll let you kind of anything else you want to add before we kind of switch.
Yeah, nothing else to add. Again, great to lock up your 2 guys from the 2021 draft class. Ended up well. And then season starts in 2 days. They play the Charlotte Hornets, a team I believe they can really beat. They knocked. They killed them twice last year. People are going to be looking at the Brandon Miller matchup. I know in our last video, people love to comment about Brandon Miller, so I know Will's going to comment on that. But yeah, I think the Rockets have a lot of matchups for that team. LaMelo's a tall point guard. The Rockets have a bunch of lengthy defenders. Brandon Miller, he's coming to his own. Really good shooter. But yeah, I think the Rockets are going to be perfectly fine. That's a game I'm chalking up as an easy W. What about you, Will?
I don't want to say easy. I don't want to underestimate our opponent.
Yeah, I'm going to. If they lose,
I think it will be a bad L because I think we are clearly the better team, but I don't want to underestimate them. I don't know what it is, bro. I must have said some stuff about Brandon that I don't remember on the podcast because I promise you, that is, I don't know why I only talk about Brandon Miller so much. Like that is, I've been seeing that so much on the comments for this podcast. I get if it was on Twitter, but I don't know what I said on YouTube that made people want me to talk about it so much. But I want to make it very clear. I have never said that Brandon Miller was bad or that he, was going to be a bust. I just said I thought Amin Thompson was better, and I will stand on that statement right now. I think as of today, I think Amin Thompson is still the better basketball player than Brandon Miller. If I could go back in time and you gave me the option of both, I'm still taking Amin Thompson. I've seen nothing from either player to make me feel different about that. And when y'all say that about Brandon Miller, I'm like, did y'all watch what Amin Thompson was doing last year, especially when he got back from injury, got back from sickness, and then he got put in starting lineup when Sengun went down. Did y'all watch what he was doing? Did y'all watch what he did in preseason? Like, I don't. If you did, I don't really understand why you be so confused. Why I felt so high about Amin Thompson. He's gonna be special, bro. You know what I'm saying? So, I definitely don't feel no different about that. That being said, though, the matchup on Wednesday, I do think that he's gonna be. I mean, he's probably the second best player on that Hornets team. I mean, yeah. On LaMelo, I'd say he's probably because Miles Bridges hasn't really done that much in recent times. So yeah, I'd say he's the second best player. I think the game plan for that game is just taking LaMelo and Brandon Miller out the game. And I think if we take those guys out the game, I mean, obviously the Hornets really don't have that many counters for that. There's not really much they can do. And I think we have the defenders to do it. This is one of those times where I do wish that like Amin Thompson would start, because I think if Amin Thompson starts, you could I would easily put Amin on LaMelo, DB on Brandon Miller, and like I live with those results. I think that those two guys could do a great job containing both of those guys. Like I said, take those guys out the game. Offensively, that's gonna fry them because they don't got nobody on defense that can stop Sengun. Right? There's no one on their team right now who's walling that guy up. So it should be a win. We're at home, so it's another thing we play really well at home. So it should be a win, like Brett said. I think it will be a pretty disappointing L way to start the season if we lost to a Hornets team. Like I said, I think they're going to be decent. They're obviously a play-in team, but I don't think they're not us, so they're not better than we are. So yeah, and hopefully Brandon Miller gets locked up and we can kind of come back and laugh at that. But so like I said about the matchup on Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, the Rockets 27-14 at home last year. The Rockets, no, they can't. They can't lose that game. But I'm not expecting them to lose that game. I think it should be a good win. I'm gonna hold them to the same standard Will holds the Texans to. Like, even if it's a bad win, like, come on, y'all supposed to be blowing these teams out. So this is a team they're supposed to blow. I know it's game one. I'll take the W regardless. But yeah.
Nah, it should be a game that we have handled by the fourth quarter, though. You're right.
100% agree. So, yep, looking forward to it. Overall, though, yeah, Will and I are just ecstatic that the Rockets get locked up their two guys for the future, especially on those deals. So, looking forward for the season to start. Will and I are going to be coming back, trying to do 2 episodes a week for you guys. It's going to be a fun season. I'm thinking that they can definitely make that play-in for sure, and hopefully the playoffs as well. But, yeah.
That's it for me as well. Thank y'all for tuning in. I'll quickly plug the Houston Live Room on Playback. You tap in with that. Obviously, I won't be there on Wednesday to watch the Rockets game with you guys because I'll be at Toyota Center. But at least one of us is, me, Brad, Jada, Vader. At least one of us will be in the Playback Room, Houston Live. On Playback, we'll be watching literally all 82 games this season. And, obviously when the Rockets make the playoffs this year, we're going to be in there for that as well. So if you want to watch the Rockets with us as a happy family, tap in with us over there. And then, I'll say this. If you'll be at the game on Wednesday, tap in with us at halftime at the bar by section 112 and 113. It's by the team shop. Can't really miss it. So, yeah, we'll be there at halftime to kind of chop it up with everybody's at the game. So I think those are the 2 things that I mainly wanted to talk about before we get up out of here. I know, Brad, you have anything you want to talk about before we kind of shut it down?
Yeah, I will not be flying to Houston, so I will be here on the Houston Live. Yeah, I'll be on the Houston Live, so y'all can catch me on there with one other person as well. So, yeah, Will was laughing. We'll talk about that off camera.
Oh, you know what, man? Somebody just sent something that I want to talk about really quickly, and then we can shut it down.
Go ahead.
I do think that this means, I think the chances of Fred staying increase with the season we got today. Because the idea behind the cap space next summer would be that Fred got declined, his team option got declined, and then we kind of somewhat let him walk. I don't think that we accept Fred's team option, but I think the chances that we decline it and then negotiate a long-term deal, I think that goes up. Like, if I was a betting man, I don't think that this is Fred's last year in Houston. I'd imagine he's here for the next at least 2 or 3 seasons. If I was a betting man, and I think that like the chances of that happening definitely increased today with the Sengun extension, which like I know we talked about it in the last podcast. That's a good thing for me. I love what I've seen from Fred VanVleet so far. Hopefully he stays. I want him to retire at Rocket, honestly. But yeah, hopefully for the next 2-3 seasons he's here for that. So. That's all I have to say now, though.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I hope Fred stays. I like him on the team option, or hopefully he opts out and takes something way better. But yeah, I like Fred here for the future. Yeah, we can end on that note. Again, Will and I are going to try to come back soon. So appreciate you guys for tuning in on this episode.